when adding content to my website for a blog article, how long should it be? Good question. So one of the things Google really talks about that they want you to avoid on your website, because they kind of feel like it's trying to game the SEO system, is what they consider thin content. What is thin content? Thin content is content that's created without a lot of words. It's just like, let's say you wanted to be optimized for a certain product or service, but you didn't really want to go about the process of building out a legitimate page with that information on there. You might create a page that's titled something about that keyword or key phrase, and maybe you're going to put a couple sentences in there, and then you're just trying to optimize it for that keyword. But there's really not a lot of there. If you understand what I'm saying, there's not a lot of content there. You're just trying to create a page or an article in such a way to try to grab a keyword or a key phrase SEO benefit, but you really haven't put the time in to put the content. That is what Google and other search engines would consider thin content, because there's not a lot of content there. It's actually just generated in such a way to try to game the SEO system. What Google and other search engines are looking for is more substantive content. So what do I mean by that? This person's asking, when adding content for a blog or article, how long should it be? Typically, you want to think about 300 words or more. Now, if it's good content, it could be a lot more than that. If it's really good content that people are going to want to consume, it could be 600 words, 800 words, whatever. But at the lower limit, you really want to look at 300 words as kind of a minimum that would get you out of what Google would consider thin content. Now, that content can be very precise. You don't want to just drag on. You don't want to write sentences that don't make sense, or just add content or drag on just to get to the 300 words. But you do want to create content that is relevant to the keywords you're trying to be optimized for, and maybe break it down into an easily digestible. You might notice a lot of the articles that I write have like 3 reasons or 4 reasons why, or 3 things to consider. Sometimes it's easier to get to that content threshold when you break down what you want to say into pieces, and then you just think about writing a couple solid sentences about each one of those pieces. The next thing you know, you're at 300 words. A lot of the website, where you would create an article or a blog or something like that, have a word counter there. So you easily can tell how many words you're at. So to answer this question succinctly, I would say think of 300 words as kind of a minimum. You want to be at 300 words. 300 to 600 is kind of a sweet spot, 300 to 800. If you're going to go over 800 words, I would say make sure that it's something that really makes sense, that it's a really cohesive article. Or you might want to consider, if you're trying to do too much in one article, you may want to consider breaking that up into 2 separate articles rather than writing one that's 1,000 words long. I'm not saying there's anything against writing one that's 1,000 words long. You just want to make sure that it's a really tight article and that it's cohesive and that it all fits together. If you start feeling like you're trying to throw too much into one article, maybe consider, is there a way that you could break this apart into 2 different articles that maybe make more sense? So instead of 1,000 word article, you could have 2 500 word articles. And you could optimize those things separately, and it might actually be better for your SEO to do it as 2 500 word articles than to do it as 1,000 word articles. So hopefully that helps. Think as 300 is the minimum, though. You don't want to really go less than that, or you do run the risk of it. It's not going to hurt you on Google. It's not like they're going to penalize you for thin content. You just may not get a whole lot of added mojo if you're adding thin content. You may not really, and you're doing this, that you're taking the time to do this because you want to get the results. You want the positive results. So it doesn't really make any sense to create a bunch of thin content, take your time and effort to do that, and not get any results because you're not doing it in a way that Google's going to, or other search engines are going to appreciate. So your time is your most valuable asset. If you're going to take your time, at least take your time and do something that's going to work. Don't take your time and do something that right out of the gate, creating a bunch of thin content's not going to give you results. So why even do it? Take all that thin content and try to create a couple more substantive blogs. It's going to give you more benefit than a bunch of thin content blogs.